Hi everyone, how we doing? Marcio here again with another class. So we're starting a new chapter now, and a chapter about first person again. We're going to show you some really cool things here now. We're going to talk about interactions with the first person. So we'll create interactions so that when you've got your first person character in the scene, he can not only move about, but he can interact with the blueprints of your ArcViz scene. Okay. So this is where the fun stuff starts. So to do so, we need to first talk about the concept of connections between blueprints, which is a really important topic for us to discuss before we move on further with the actual interactions. Okay, and it addresses some details that are actually essential to understand this process and how it works within Unreal Engine. So we'll go steady so you understand it. Okay. Cool. So in this class, we'll address one of the types of blueprints that it's really important: connection. Now there are different ways to use it, but we'll talk about some of them. And during this course, you'll see some, and in the chapter as well. Okay. So basically, what do we need to know from the outset? Well, I came back to our previous scene just for this example where we were creating the first person. And hopefully, this will be really helpful for us to be able to test some of the things on this topic. And then later on, we'll go back to the living room scene where that we were creating things in. Okay? All right. So, as we said, what are the blueprint connections and what are they used for? Well, basically, this is how it works. For every blueprint that we create, we also create a class of blueprints. And when we create a new blueprint here, you see this here, blueprint class. Yeah, so when we create it, it asks us which one do you want to create, which class, because there are many. And we've created an actor type blueprint, a character type, a player controller, camera shake so far, okay? But there are so many different types. So what is the concept exactly that we're talking about when it comes to connections? Well, when blueprints are created, it creates a class. And when we get a class, we get it in our content browser, don't we? So what does that actually mean? Well, it means that then we can add it to our scene, or we can add a blueprint of this class that we've created. We can insert an actor from this blueprint class as well. For example, I've added this here in our scene, and this is used for set material blueprint. So we've created the ability to change the materials. We've added it here. We can see in the world outliner. So we can see BP set material. Okay. And we have it here. Okay. So the blueprint we've created, we want to create a copy of it. We can do that. So we have a BP set material 2, right? So technically now we have two actors in our scene of the same blueprint class. So it's that concept basically of doing something instantaneous, or an instance of something. So we have this in our 3D software quite often, don't we? When you make a copy of something, you can make an instance of it. But we should notice that this is a blueprint class that we're creating. So we have two actors of this class, but they are independent from each other. For instance, if we go to the details here, we can access actually a shortcut for the components that make up this blueprint, right? So just have a look at them. Here is the list of components, right, that make up the blueprint. And we can see it here in our details panel. Okay, so I can take a look at them. I can adjust different things. So here, the sphere, that gives me the setting specific for that. I can make this bigger if I want to. So I'm making this one bigger on the left, but the one on the right is remaining the same size. Okay, so it's independent of the other blueprint, even though it belongs to the same blueprint class. Okay, so it means there's a hierarchy within the actor that I can adjust, and it alters the actual actor itself rather than altering any other copy of the actor. But if I alter the class of this actor, then all of the actors are going to be changed. Let me show you. See that? So it altered this one. But actually, why did it not alter the one before? Well, that is because I've already changed it in the editor. Okay, so I've already I've already superseded it. So let's suppose we go back to this example here. So if I change this, let me see the scale. Let me change the scale there. You see that? So once they're both the same in the scene, if we change it within the actor, it will change all the other actors in the scene as long as I haven't edited them in the editor. And this is a really important concept for us to understand, the classes and the actors in Blueprints and how they behave. Okay, cool. So now another concept that's especially important for this class is about Blueprint connections. So let's suppose, for example, I want to have a function or a routine within this blueprint, and it controls something inside this other blueprint. Do you remember this blueprint? It's the set intensity blueprint, in which there's a lamp and we adjusted the light intensity. So let's suppose I want a routine here that accesses that, or a function that is accessible in another blueprint. Well, to do that, I need to connect one blueprint to another, okay? Since it's a separate class as well. So if I want to change the intensity of, let's say, the light of another blueprint, for example, and I can't find it here because it's not connected to it, it's not part of it, it's not part of the same class. So you might think you're a bit stuck. And even though it's in the same scene, you're not able to access them at the same time. Now, we'll talk about how to connect one blueprint to another, and we'll also show you why it's useful for us to do it. Okay? So when I do want to access this, how do I do it? Well, I should be able to access the parameters, the components, the variables, or anything really inside a blueprint through the main blueprint. And Unreal helps us do that. And we call this method, we will call this blueprint a sender. So this is the sender. This blueprint will send a signal to another blueprint, and the other blueprint will be the receiver. Okay? So the sender will send a signal to the receiving blueprint, which receives the signal, and it sends back another bit of information here. Okay? And this is the connection between both blueprints. It almost is like saying, I'm sending you a message. Did you get it? Yes, I got it. And that communication comes back to the sender, doesn't it? So if you want to connect them, we need to send a message or send communication between the two. And that helps us to access what's in the other blueprint and make that connection. And this is another example of blueprint connection and what it's for, really. It can be really useful for us. Basically, we're saying we have two blueprints. They're in the same scene, right? And we have a blueprint. This is the actor type. There's another blueprint, which is another actor type or a different class, right? But we can still communicate. And we can have both in the level, both in the scene, and work between each other. So you'll see later on in the classes, in the course, how useful this is. So there is another option that, as I said, you can have and use as well. You can access it through the level. Okay, so I'm here in the main map level, which I've created for this scene. Now, in each level, there's something like a blueprint, as if the level was like a blueprint. And I've set the material blueprint here within this space. Okay, so now I'm in the blueprint, and all the elements of the blueprint are here on the event graph. Now, for any of the components I have here, I can get references to them, right? Quite easily. And that's because I'm inside what you could call this universe, okay, of the set material blueprint. However, our level has a universe of itself. So everything within the scene is like a component of the blueprint of the editor level, okay? So we can access this through here. If you go to blueprints, there's open level blueprint, which is the level blueprint. it's as if I created a level type blueprint, right? And then I added components to it, i.e. be in this map or this level, etc. So let's open it and have a look. So you see, it looks similar, doesn't it? But I don't have a components list here. Why not? Well, that's because the components are the actors within the scene. So it's already understanding that the components are these actors. You doesn't need a hierarchy there or components list. So let's suppose I want to find a reference for this lamp. Let's suppose the lamp is here in this sphere. So I can just drag it onto my graph and I've got it. But in the level blueprint, it works a little differently, doesn't it? So what you need to do is you need to select the actor that you want, right click, okay? And it shows up here, right? These functions. So we can create a reference to BP set intensity. And this means that Unreal will then create a reference of the selected object. So now I have its reference all set up or available basically. And this also brings up a topic that we talked about briefly earlier, which is a really important part of Unreal, which is the references. So when you use a reference for something from another blueprint inside your blueprint, you're basically searching for that blueprint with the use of this reference, okay? So this reference will be for that blueprint. We're searching for it. And it uses the power of Unreal to be able to find it. So we can pull out connections and utilize any part of that original blueprint. So let's suppose, for example, I'm getting BP set material reference. So here's the reference for that. And if I want to pull out, let's say I want the sphere that actually makes up that blueprint. We can search for it, right? Go down to the bottom and then you see here, you'll get sphere. So I got that. And from this, I can then control all of the parameters of this original sphere. Okay, here in the editor level blueprint, I can take control of that, right? So let's suppose I want to get the lamp, okay? So let's have a look. I want to get the lamp and the set intensity blueprint. So I can search for that. So I've got that now and I can name it if I want to. I found... Now I can pull out from here, set intensity. And let's move it out of the way. So I can look up set intensity and I can find it, set point light intensity or set intensity. So it's like being able to jump inside of the other blueprint and take control, okay? Just like we can do here within the blueprint itself. You can get materials. You can look up different things and find a lot of information from within this component, okay? So that's within our blueprint. Within the level blueprint, it works pretty much the same. So basically, we have this at level blueprint 2. Really cool feature and something to understand and be aware of, okay? The easiest way to look up a blueprint is actually from the level blueprint itself. And when you do it, you're actually connecting both blueprints, the one from the level and the one from set intensity. And this one is from the level to be able to set material blueprint. And when you connect them, you can look up anything in other blueprints from the level blueprint. So we'll just use the editor level as the easiest way to find the blueprint, shall we? Well, not exactly. It's a bit of a yes and a no. It's easier for looking something up, but you're conditioned to your level. So if your programming is all in this, then fine. But if you have different levels to work from, then you'll need to be able to search for the blueprints from the level, if that makes sense, okay? From a higher level of searching. So you need to search from your level blueprint and to be able to do that if you're working from different maps, okay? But if you're working within one map, then fine. Now, if we have an actor type blueprint, we can find it in the content browser and we can migrate it to other projects. So if you migrate the level only, then you will have to create the scene from a level that's already done. So the workflow doesn't turn out so good all the time. So we can call this like a direct connection. So you can get blueprints directly from the level blueprint, and you make a direct connection. All right. Understand so far? Cool. So it talks about our level blueprint. That's all good. This is the easiest way, but I don't want to do it on the level blueprint. I want to connect this blueprint to this other one within the same map. So I don't want to connect it via level. I want to do it via blueprint because it's right there. Okay, so I want to send it to, I want this to be my sender to send off to the set material blueprint, because this would be a good example. So it's going to send a message to another blueprint, set material in this case, and it sends back the information that it has in it. And then I can work with that information. But I don't want the level. I just want to be able to do it here. Okay, so all I have to do is select this, and I just need to right click. Okay, and then I can get the reference for it just there. Oh, no, I can't. I can't get the blueprint. I can't get the blueprint as a reference like the level blueprint. Why? Because it's not part of my components. You know, much different to how it is in level blueprint. So I can't just right click and get a reference, can I? No, not true. We can. We just do this, okay? So we go here and find cast 2. Or you can look up get BP. Okay. Oh, can't even find it. Hold on one second. That's because each blueprint is like a separate file, okay? So it may be in our content file, but it's not in the scene. So it's not part of it, right? So we can't connect. So because, do you remember when we opened it here and I'm in the blueprint class, I'm not editing the actor, am I? So how do I connect this class here? How do I connect this to this class? Well, I can't because they're separate files, right? So we need to do this some other way. So whichever way, how do we do it? Well, we've actually seen this before, which is all about when we looked at public variables. I don't know if you remember that class on the doors where we've seen in the past when we create the slide-in doors, not the simple door. Yeah, it was a simple door. We created a variable, didn't we? You made it public so that it can be seen in the editor. You can access it and make adjustments, remember? Well, we can do it through the public variable as well. Let's see how to do it. I'll create a variable first of all, and this variable that will be one that represents the other one. Okay, so let's do that together now. Let's start from here. Create a new variable and let's name it set intensity reference. Let's do that. Intensity reference. Okay, ref for reference. Cool. Awesome. All right, good. So now what do we need to do? Well, we need to choose the type of variable we want. By default, we have Boolean the variable, but there are other types. Okay, I've got no reference here, but if I type BP underscore set, there we go. I can get lots of options here, right? And we can create a reference. So I can look for object reference, and we'll create a reference for this object, and we can do it here in BP set intensity. So I'll just compile first of all, and it's created a reference for us, and we see, look here. So we can set the intensity reference just here, which is the set intensity blueprint. Cool. So if I add it here and get it, I get the variable that is, getting the reference for it and add it onto our graph. What does that do? Well, it makes it a reference to this class. So if you check this part here, I can't change anything here. This is a reference to the class of the blueprint only. So what we will do is we'll create a reference here in our actor to add another one, right? So let me explain what I mean. Here I want to control this actor, which is set intensity. So I need to tell it which actor is from that class, right? So let's do this together. Let's make it public first of all. And if we come back here, so here we go. So we have our default here because I didn't change the name. Let's just change that now. We can set up different names here if we want to. Okay, so there's material and we can find it within the same group. Okay, there we go. So we got our set reference variable here, right? So what do we need to do now? Well, since it's referencing a class, if I click this, all the actors from this class, which are in the scene, they have to be in the scene that's opened, then I can select them. So if I want the intensity or the BP intensity, I can select that. Okay, let's make a copy. Okay, so we made a copy here now. It's a bit further away, so it's not interfering too much. Okay, so I have BP intensity 2. So this is BP intensity with nothing to it. It would be 1, and I can select either BP intensity 1 or 2, right? The actors from the scene I can select now. So you can see that there is a limitation to this kind of connection. I can connect one actor at a time. Now, if I want to connect both, all I have to do this, I have to create another variable, right? So I have to create another variable with the same class, BP set intensity, and then select the other one, and it will become another variable, etc. Okay, I can delete this for now. And here I have a connection, right? And from the moment I've created a variable and indicated which actor it is that I've connected, and they are connected, I've connected this actor to this blueprint by doing this. All right, so I can control things from here. So I can control the intensity the same way I did in the set intensity blueprint. Okay, so let me open this blueprint here. Okay, and I've even disconnected it, haven't I? So I've disconnected it from the G key, from our flip-flop. So what is the logic of this blueprint? Well, there is the G key, there's the flip-flop, and that's going to alternate between option A and B, and the intensity was changed here, right? So the intensity that was set up outside the blueprint and on the on and off switch, okay, but I've turned this off because we're going to redo the blueprint. But this time, inside set material, I have a connection and I want it to show, okay? So I can just do this. I can pull out, and now I can get my point light, which is what I did just here. Okay, you see a point light? So since this is in the blueprint, I can drag it and drop it here. But now, since I'm in another blueprint, I have to draw the reference, create a connection, okay? And then I can bring it in as a component from another blueprint. So it's the same thing, set intensity. Okay, so that's on. I'll set up the first one to be off. And then we need to create another keyboard event, okay? So let's create another event. Use letter C for now, okay? Just to make it different from using G. Create a flip-flop, do exactly what we did the other time. Plug that in. You already know this bit. And I'll just run by it really quickly, okay? Just do a copy. Type this in here. I think maybe put 10,000 as a value, so it's really obvious. Okay, so 10,000 is our, oh no, 100,000 is our intensity, and B here, push C, flip-flop. It's going to alternate between on and off. Okay, cool. Let's push play and just check it's working. Okay, I think this is already here, so let's push play now. So is it on? Let's push C. Okay, yeah, it goes off. So I'm pushing C, we've created it. Same effect from the other blueprint, right? Cool. It's doing the same thing from the other blueprint, but actually through another one. Awesome. That's a nice little connection there. So let me show you the difference between having the actor and the class, okay? So I make another blueprint copy, and let's push play again. So we've created an instance of the object, haven't we? Okay, and like the concept we're using in 3D software where you make a copy, both should be turned off now, right? Let's do a test. And what happens? Only one of them turns off. So why is that? Because once again, I'm referencing the actor, this actor, okay? I can only reference one, okay? So to do the other, I need to change it, okay? I need to tell it, oh, don't pick that one, pick the other one, select actor 2. And now I'm connected to this actor. We understand, right? So if we turn it off, we can turn that one off. So that's the connection that we're making. And as we said, because we're referencing this class when I do it, yeah, it creates all the functionality. And then in the editor, we can choose, well, which one do you want to pick? Which actor from the class in the scene do you want to be working with? Okay. You might find that useful in some situations. But as I said, in this way, you could only reference one actor, or at least, one that is connected to a variable you've created. If you want to do more than one, you need to create another variable like we showed you. Okay. But that's an easy, practical way to create a reference. And it is actually something that's used quite often in ArcViz scenes. But as I say, there are limitations of only being able to work with one at a time, unless you create more than one variable down here, right? Let me just do it really quick just to show you. And we'll rename it. We'll call it BP intensity. In fact, we'll leave it like that. Put it under material. Okay, compile and save. Let's go to our blueprint. So now we've got the ability to connect to two things. So we'll do that now. They're both different, right? We've got both of them selected. And let's just go and check this. So this is connected to our first one. We need to pull in our second one here and connect that to our point light. So get the point light and then plug it into the set intensity values. And then we can reuse those nodes. Okay, let's play and push C. Now they both go off, right? So this is an easy and quite a useful type of connection. It's a nice introduction to them. But if there are too many objects in the scene, just think about it. You're going to have to make lots of variables, aren't you? And do lots of these connections within the event graph. So imagine if you've got 40 of them and you're making 40 variables, it can take a long time, can't it? And then this connection doesn't become so useful. Okay. It's not really worth it then if you've got loads to sort out. But one or two, you might decide to do it. Cool. So we've talked about the level blueprint, which is the blueprint that we talked about where you can take control over everything and call them. We talked about blueprints connecting directly between each other through public variables as well. So in the next class, we'll talk about another type of connection, and I'll see you then. Okay.